You will never be forgotten by family, friends, and your world of fans. May you rest in heaven. Always, God will be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. This is Florence Dolores Joyner, known to millions of people around the world as Flo-Jo, three-time Olympic gold medalist. She also won a silver, but she liked that gold a lot better. And the fastest woman in the world. To this day, her records have not been broken in the women's 100-meter sprint and 200-meter sprint. From what I remember as a child watching the Olympics, watching men and women race, Florence Joyner right here, beautiful woman. When I would watch her run as a kid when I was watching the Olympics, is her hair flowing, and me looking back on it now and watching her old races, how she effortlessly ran. She kind of reminds me of Usain Bolt. They both run in this style that doesn't look like they're working very hard, even though their bodies are working a lot harder than anything that we can fathom. She had these nails. That was a couple things that she was known for. I mean, other than being good looking and fast and that hair when she would be running, she had these tracksuits with the one-legged tracksuits, and her nails being done. Her nails had to be done. A woman definitely ahead of her time. If social media were around in her heyday, she'd have been a ginormous star. She would have been probably a Hollywood actress. She would have been on TV and all that stuff. She tragically died. She, I think in her mid-30s, started having seizures. And from one of those seizures, she died. And I've been wanting to come down and visit her grave for quite some time. People that are famous is one thing, but people that are famous that I as a child remember and would watch and all that good stuff. I'm a pretty big fan when it comes to track and field. Even if I've never heard of anybody in the race, I still love to enjoy watching people race. 100 meter, 200 meter. A woman just ahead of her time. 10.49 seconds, 100-meter sprint. Who's going to break it? Who's going to beat it? I don't think it's going to be beaten for a very, very long time. God rest this woman's soul, guys. Flo-Jo. On February 23rd, 1972, Gordon was with his friend Michael, and they were just hanging around in the Santa Ana area, and they were drag racing dune buggies in the street. Not supposed to, but kids being kids, kids having fun. Well, fun turned into tragedy when there was a drag race going on through an intersection they ran, and they collided with another drag racer. And in the process, Gordon, who was the passenger in the dune buggy, and his friend Michael, they both died. Gordon lived for about 10 days before he succumbed to his injuries, and his friend died at the scene. Now, the other driver of the dune buggy, he was charged or arrested on suspicion of vehicular manslaughter. I'm not sure what ended up happening to him, but having fun, weather's good, just racing, just an accident. Sounds like the birds are having a get together on seeing who's the loudest. I was wanting to see what bird was making all that noise, and I noticed, you probably can't see it in the video, I'm not really sure, but this tree right here is leaning pretty good. Now, I suspect that this tree is going to stay upright for a very long time, but you get a pretty good gust of wind, and that tree is going to snap right in half. There's a lot of weight being bent at an angle right there. So, I don't know if they want to cut it down eventually or what, but yeah, it's definitely going to be coming down for sure. Frank Dennis Fox, born June 3rd, 1962, in Los Angeles, California area. He grew up in Linwood. And this kid, by the time he was about 4 years of age, parents noticed that he can talk really well. He was a pretty good talker. As a matter of fact, when he was 4, his mother remarked how well he spoke. Like, he spoke just as good as someone 10, 12 years older than him. And that talking continued as he was a kid growing up in Los Angeles. Described as just basically somebody that could talk his way out of anything. Maybe he would have been a good car salesman. Hell, might even been a politician. This guy was very bright. He was one of those kids in school that got very good grades, but very bad marks. What I'm saying is, he would oftentimes get into trouble. I think he had to go to a different school later on just because he was diagnosed, back in those days anyways, as being hyperactive. Very smart kid, but just couldn't seem to kind of rein things in. Kind of probably sounds like a lot of your kids out there that I'm currently describing. As a matter of fact, he was such a good talker that when he was 15 years of age, he forged a boarding pass and got on a plane, talked his way through, flying from Los Angeles down here up to San Francisco. So pretty clever in the eyes of some. To the authorities, not so much. So basically, we got a wayward kid. He's not out there doing bad. He probably is one of these intellectual genius type kids that they get very bored in their brain. They operate differently than most people around them. So Dennis, which is what he went by, his middle name after his father. So tragedy would befall the family, starting with the death of Dennis's dad, who was a truck driver. He died in a very horrible accident. He was backing his truck up to a dock. He puts the truck into park. He sets the brake. Somehow or another, the truck disengaged from its brakes and crushed him right between the end of the trailer and the loading dock. Very, very nasty way to die. The following year, his grandfather would die. So you have 2 quick deaths for the family within 2 years. Now, Dennis had got some death benefits from his father's job, so he gets into a little bit of money. So he decides that he's going to move out, and he's going to rent an apartment in Long Beach, which is not very far from where he is growing up. And even though at this time now he's about 17 years of age, he hasn't even completed the 11th grade yet. But guys like this, they have grandiose ideas. So he's already talking about it. He's going to enroll in college. He says, the heck with the high school thing. I want to go to college. I want to do this and I want to do that. So he gets his own apartment, and he's living it up. And he moves out, and I'm sure his mom was sad to see him go, but what are you going to do? You're not going to stop this kid. So he moves out. He has his own apartment. Now, Thanksgiving 1979, so the family is having a get-together. And there is a place that is set up for Dennis. However, dinner time comes and he hasn't shown up yet. So they ring his phone, no answer. Now, it's a landline. He could be outside at the store. He could have taken a walk around the block, who knows? But it's one thing when you have a kid who is kind of his own person and, you know, he's doing these things, taking trips up to San Francisco on planes, sneaking on them or whatever. So it's not unusual for him to, you know, be gone for 2-3 days where he doesn't contact his family. However, it is not like him to miss a family get-together such as Thanksgiving. It's very, very unlike Dennis. So his family, they report him missing to the police. And the next day he doesn't show up. And the next day he doesn't show up. And the next day he doesn't show up. December 2nd, 1979. A body is discovered at Casper's Regional Park. Now, at this time now, the body cannot be positively identified because it has gone through the beginning stages of decomposition. So the Fox family would go 8 months with not knowing what happened to their loved one until in July of 1980, that body is finally identified through dental records as belonging to Frank Dennis Fox. Dennis was murdered by a man by the name of William George Bonin. You may not know his name, but if you were around Orange County, Los Angeles in the 1970s, you will remember him as being named the Freeway Killer. This guy would drive around and basically, in so many words, he would pick up guys, younger guys, kids, whatever, for sex, and then he would kill them. We're going to be doing a more in-depth video about his dastardly deeds in the future. This I can tell you. So he picked up Dennis somewhere in Bellflower, and depending on who you want to believe, whether at first the sex was consensual, I do not know, but after that he beat him to death with a blunt object, and he admitted to the murder. This is the grave of Frank Dennis Fox right here, and eventually William George Bonin was executed for the multiple murders that he committed on February 23rd, 1996. He got the honor, if you will, of being the first inmate in California to be executed via lethal injection. Just a deviant, and we're going to talk about in the future, like I said, we're going to talk about how he came to be, his victims, why he did this, all of that. So rest in peace to this kid. Did he even get a chance to become something, a contributing member of society?
Remind everyone the excellent answers, with the exception of one that Howard gave us. When he stopped blushing, give me 20 seconds on the clock. Name a month that is also a girl's name.
June.
Try again.
May.
A pet bird kept in a cage.
Parrot.
An elementary school subject.
Math. Arithmetic. Spelling.
The age a woman's figure is best.
Anything over 12. 32.
Something you serve with cake.
Ice cream.
Try again.
Syrup, chocolate syrup.
Chocolate syrup. Turn it on.
So that joke right there, that would be a perfect excuse of what people nowadays deem to be an inappropriate joke, right? So when you first heard that joke that was said by Gordon Jump, you're probably going to think some nasty things about him. But before you think those things, and you can still think those things. This is a channel where you can say whatever you want in the comments, as long as you're not like overtly disrespectful towards the deceased. But you would have to understand the story behind that joke, as inappropriate as it might have been. So Gordon Jump, of course, you guys know him probably mainly as playing on WKRP Cincinnati. He played, I think, the station manager on that show. That show was a little bit before my time, and I think I was too young to get the jokes on the show. So I remember they would play it on Channel 11 out here during the daytime. I'm not really sure why. I'm sure those were reruns. And however, he also played Chief of Police Tinkler on one of my favorite shows as a kid, Soap. I loved that show. I loved Soap. But I probably know Gordon Jump from the beginning as being the Maytag repairman. So he got his start in Topeka. He was born in Dayton, Ohio on April 1st, 1932, but he got his start. He was the weatherman on a local news station in Topeka, and then he also played like on some kid show, like as a clown, with Winky the Clown or something like that. Anyways, Gordon Jump. So the story behind that inappropriate joke was that you guys, if you're a fan of Different Strokes, you might remember the episode where Gordon Jump, he played a creepy pedo owner of a bicycle shop, and he was trying to entice Arnold and his, what was his friend's name? Dudley, I think. Trying to entice him into like taking pictures because he was a ped, he was a creep. And they ended up busting him on the show, like he was taking pictures of the kids, telling them to take off. So it was a very serious episode. And they were, making jokes about, Arnold. You got to kind of look for the episode on YouTube and watch it. I mean, it's a funny episode, but you have to kind of think that kind of humor is funny. But they were making some jokes now that probably wouldn't be made on network TV ever again, because it's just a changing time. And, people would want to, they probably would want to adapt to today's changing culture of what's funny. I however, don't. I'm still stuck in the 80s. But that's why he made that joke. And as inappropriate as it was, if you would have watched the episode, just watched the episode and then heard that joke, you would have laughed because it was funny. This is Gordon Jump, funny guy right here. I don't think he ever did stand-up comedy. But, no, he's just a funny guy, like you could just kind of tell this guy on Soap, he was a funny guy. And, of course, try not to get my shadow in the, wow. I'm just going to have to get my shadow in there because the sun is right over my shoulder. But that's his grave right there. Nice, perfect shadow on his grave. I apologize, guys. But I was not able to come back on a day where the sun is at a different position, which oftentimes for videos I do. Just today I can't. I don't have enough time. But he's buried next to his wife, Betty. And what's on the stone? God takes our loved ones from our homes, but never from our hearts. He died of pulmonary fibrosis. Yeah, died kind of young. What was he, 71? Yeah, he wasn't that old. So, hey, he made the move. He made the jump, pun intended, to Los Angeles in the early 60s, wanted to be an actor, and he made it. And he made it big, and he was a very successful man. And just, yeah, rest in peace to Gordon and Betty Jump. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Isaiah 40:31. As you can see on this marker right here, it says this is the house that love built. This Ronald McDonald house in Philadelphia was inspired by the love of this 3-year-old girl who is now forever in our hearts. So Kimberly Hill, when she was 3 years of age, she was diagnosed with acute lymphatic leukemia. At the time, her father, Fred Hill, he was a football player. He played for the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a tight end. And because of her cancer diagnosis, Fred, with the Philadelphia Eagles, they created a charitable foundation which led to the first Ronald McDonald House. And of course, Ronald McDonald House is there for families who kids are going through cancer treatment, and it's enough that it's a financial burden on the family, much so, also, of course, a psychological, spiritual, emotional. And Ronald McDonald Houses, they allow the families of children who are going through these awful things. It allows them to stay at these houses owned by the foundation, free of charge. This could be quite a financial burden on a family to go through that nightmare that hopefully one day will only have just been a nightmare. So the cancer would continue to worsen throughout Kimberly's life, and it spread to her brain. It started affecting her eyesight, and towards the end, her ability to speak. And on March 5th, 2011, she passed away. But because of her, Ronald McDonald Houses were born. Two brothers both died within just about a year of each other. An interesting marker right here. I don't think I've seen one quite like this. It kind of goes at a slope, as you can tell. At the time of her September 14th, 1981 murder, 20-year-old Ginger Lorraine Fleischli was working at a dress shop over in Balboa Island, and she had recently been accepted into a beauty school. She was looking very much forward to attending that school. And in her life, that she loved a man, or might have liked him, maybe it could have grown into love. She was dating a guy named David Leach. Now, according to Ginger's older brother, Jack, who was at the time a practicing attorney, he didn't really like David because David was kind of one of those violent, short-tempered weirdos that he just didn't feel that his sister should be dating. Ginger had asked her brother Jack if he could represent her boyfriend in some kind of a matter. It might have been a traffic ticket or something. It wasn't something that I remember it being serious, but begrudgingly he did. He definitely did not like this character, and he didn't like that his sister was dating this guy. Now, I don't know what kind of problems that they were having in their relationship, but at the time when she was living with David, they got into a big, huge argument. And as a matter of fact, I don't know, I can't say whether he put his hands on her, but it was bad enough to where she called the police, and under their escort, she moved all of her things out of his apartment. Now, when Ginger moves out, she moves in with Tracy Leach, who is the ex-wife of David. This story gets a little bit confusing, so stay with me for a minute, because I have several questions that I'm not able to find the answers to. So Tracy is the ex-wife of David, a man that she's dating, and somehow or another they're friends. So she stays with Tracy in her apartment. And one night on the 11th of September 1981, I'm not sure how they all met, but Ginger's hanging out with Tracy when they run into David and David's friend, a man named Thomas Thompson. So they had all met up and they were hanging out at either a bar or a pizza parlor, and then they went to a bar. So they're hanging out. It's David, Ginger, Thomas, and Tracy. Now, when the girls were away from the boys, Ginger looked at Tracy, and she didn't know why, but the Thomas guy, he was giving her the heebie-jeebies. He was giving her the creeps. As a matter of fact, and I don't know if she was serious or if this were a joke, but she says, don't leave me alone with that guy because I think he would kill me. Again, I don't know if that was serious or she's kind of joking, half serious, half joking. I'm not really sure, but her intuition was kicking in, and it was telling her that this guy is bad news, to stay away from this creep. Now, Thomas and David, I don't know how long they had been friends for, but after Ginger had moved out, Thomas had moved in, and these numbskull losers, they had some kind of weird idea that they were going to start some kind of business smuggling drugs and people in from Southeast Asia into the United States. They were going to smuggle in some hash or whatever they can get their hands on and become stinking rich, something along those lines. So afterwards, David and Tracy, they go off on somewhere. I don't know if they went to Tracy's house or what. So now it's Thomas and Ginger. Now, I don't know why, but they ended up at the place where she just moved out of, where David is. Now they're hanging out, and then a fifth person, I guess it'd be the fifth wheel in this group. This guy shows up at the apartment. So this guy's name is Afshin Kashani. I don't know who he is to all these people. I don't know if he's like a friend of theirs or an acquaintance or whatever. So David ends up coming back from whatever it was that he was doing with Tracy. So now it's Afshin, Thomas, Ginger, and David. So in the story, Ginger leaves the place. She wanted to go get something to drink at the store, like a soda or something like that. So as they're gone, Afshin and Thomas are talking about how cute Ginger is, and supposedly they're talking kind of vulgar about her. And Thomas was saying that he would like to sleep with her. I don't know if he did it in a jock storytelling way or he's doing it in a sick and twisted way. I'm not really sure. So as Ginger is still gone out of the apartment, Afshin, who had been drinking earlier, he wants to walk back to the bar area because that's where he parked his truck. So he leaves, and as he's walking back to his truck, he's kind of keeping his eye on Ginger because she's been gone for a while now. I don't know how long of a walk it was from the apartment to the bar, but he's walking, And all of a sudden, he forgets that he forgot something or another. Maybe he forgot his keys. I don't know. So he turns around and walks all the way back to the apartment. I don't know how much time passed. He gets to the apartment, and when he knocks on the door, he notices that Thomas, when he answers the door, he looks like really nervous and just weird and strange. And he tries to walk into the apartment, and Thomas stops him and says, what do you want? Now, it's kind of weird because just 30 minutes prior, he was invited into the apartment and everything is good. And now it's like a total 180 has occurred. His mood has changed and he's not letting him in the apartment. So he tells him, I forgot. Maybe it was keys he forgot. He goes and does not let him into the apartment, closes the door, locks it, gets it, opens the door, gives it to him, and he leaves. He takes off and he goes back to his truck. He makes it to his truck and he's still looking for Ginger, but he didn't see her. I don't know if a lot of people know the Southern California area, but in particular Irvine, if you go a little bit south of Irvine, 30, 40 years ago, it was pretty rural. There was a lot of farms over there. There's still some farms, but there are not too many. So you fast forward 3 days later, September 14th, 1981, some farm workers in a rural part of Irvine at the time see what looks like something wrapped up in a sleeping bag. So as they get closer, they realize that somebody made a poor attempt to bury something, and they get even closer and they realize this looks like a human body. So they immediately run and call 911. When detectives arrive, they do confirm that it is a body, and they would later identify that body of being Ginger Fleischli. She's taken to the Orange County Coroner's Office for autopsy. She had been wrapped in a sleeping bag and then wrapped in a pink blanket. Her elbows were bound to her side, and it looked like she had been beaten up pretty badly, and the actual thing that killed her was a stab wound into her ear canal, and it went into her ear canal and it severed her carotid artery. And there were signs of her having been raped. And I think her jeans were unbuttoned, her bra was torn, and obviously this is definitely a sex assault. Earlier, a couple of days before her body was discovered, Tracy was asking Thomas and David what happened to Ginger because she never came back home, and they said they didn't know. And afterwards, they took off to Mexico. So they immediately, Tracy calls the police and tells them that she suspects that possibly Thomas has something to do with it, because you remember how I told you earlier, she said that this guy's giving her the creeps. And, I think if don't leave me alone with this guy, he's going to hurt me. So it took them a little while to finally find Thomas Thompson and David Leach. And by the time they got them together, they charged them both with first-degree murder. Now, some of the evidence that they found some of Ginger's blood in the apartment that the men both shared. It looked like pretty much a poor attempt to try to clean up a crime scene. And other than that, they found a pair of different footprints in the area where the body was found, and one of those footprints matched a pair of shoes that one of the men owned. Also, fibers from the blanket that was found where she was wrapped up in matched fibers from David's trunk. And also, when they did a vaginal smear looking for any kind of bodily fluids, the bodily fluids that they found from Ginger matched the same type that would be coming from Thomas Thompson. Now, of course, DNA, even though back then it wasn't a thing, it was an idea. And oftentimes, if you go look online, you'll see some stupid jokers on YouTube and other social media platforms. These jokers, they got nothing better to do. So they'll say like, oh, Thomas Thompson was not guilty. They didn't have any evidence. No, they had plenty of evidence against him. And maybe most of it was circumstantial, but when you add the semen that was taken from her body, matching his blood type, And also Afshin saying that when he got back, he just looked really, really weird. The part that I don't understand is why David was involved in this matter. Why you would want to kill your girlfriend or let some creepy guy put his hands on your girlfriend. That's what I don't understand about this case, is what was the reasoning? What was the purpose of this occurring? The only thing that I can see online is that, other than the two being disgusting freaks, that they were afraid that Ginger was going to call the police on their stupid operation of trying to smuggle in hash oil from whatever Southeast Asian country, I think Thailand, over into the United States. That has not been terribly clear to me. But what I do know is that both men were found guilty. However, Thomas Thompson, he was found guilty of first-degree murder with special circumstances, and he was eventually found guilty and sentenced to die via lethal injection, and that sentence was carried out. However, David Leach, I don't understand the situation with him. For some unknown reason, he ended up pleading to second-degree murder and received, I want to say it was 15 years to life in prison, which I believe now he might already be released, because I wasn't able to find his name in the California State Department of Corrections prison website. I'll look again though while I'm editing this video. But this is the final resting place of Ginger Fleischli. Just a horrible story with two degenerate weirdos. Thank God one of them was executed. In my opinion, both of them should have been executed. And it said on an old newspaper column about this story that they felt that because David looked young and he had like kind of like, I guess what you would call an innocent face, that they feel that possibly the jury got him on the second degree instead of the first degree. I have no idea. Okay, that concludes another video. Live, but not live, still alive by the grace of God. Lamont at large. I'll see you on the next video. Don't worry about him. I've already threw him something to eat. Catch up with you on the next video. Peace out.